going to talk about something that we've been hearing a lot about, and it's not new. We have a challenge with our online panel sources. We want to talk about sustainability specifically. Businesses are challenged today to move really quickly in a very challenging environment, and they're doing everything they can to stay in business. They need information to stay competitive and to grow, and they need that information to be quick and frequent at times. The more uncertainty that they operate in, and can somebody say pandemic one more time, the tougher it is, the more urgent the need, and also the tighter the budgets are going to get. So the pandemic was just the latest thing, but like I said in the beginning, this is not new. It's just something we've been dealing with where we need data and insights that are cheaper, faster, and better. So technology has also been another variable that has brought with it the introduction of another set of tools that enable businesses to do that. If you think about DIY tools and SaaS platforms that we see come up every day and are being used more and more. When we think about all of these variables and the effect that they have had in that pursuit of faster, cheaper, and better on the quality and the reliability of our sample sources, we have to be concerned. And the reason that we have these fellows and this lady up here is because they are uniquely positioned to give you information and answer some questions about how do we manage this heightened level of complexity in sourcing, the limited visibility that buyers, some of you in this audience, have when it comes to understanding where their sample sources are coming from and the transparency behind it. So now, with all that said, I'm going to introduce our panelists. We have 3 distinct perspectives on this issue. And my goal is that you can walk away today with a little bit more information on what to think about, what to ask the next time that you have a conversation about sampling. So first up is Brad France. Brad, wave up. Brad is Manager Online Quality and Sourcing at Burke. He is my colleague, and he works directly with our clients and a network of online providers to create and maintain best practices for online data collection. So we're going to call Brad the sample buyer. Then we have Ariane Lerner, and she is a VP at PureSpectrum. She leads a sales and account management team that provides innovative sourcing options to her clients. And we will call Ariane the sample marketplace supplier. Then, last but not least, trying to hide behind the podium but not being very successful, is Jason Thomas. Jason is the president of Symmetric, where he oversees the creation and management of proprietary online panels and communities. And we're going to call him the panel provider. Just a quick round of applause for our panelists. They have promised me they will not get into a fight. And I don't think they want to because those chairs are perilously to the edge. So here's the first question, and I'm going to throw this question out. I'm going to start with Brad. What is the one thing that companies like the ones that you work for have done that contributed to the challenge, directly or indirectly, to this challenge that we have today? And what is the one thing that you're doing to make things better?
Contributing. We care, and this isn't what's your greatest weakness is I care too much. The idea of we care about the research so much, we are so ingrained in the questionnaire design and the build of that we sometimes lose sight that there's a human being on the other side that's going to take the step. So, especially at Burke, we've got some studies that are laborious, that are heavy lifting from an analytics perspective, which means there's heavy lifting in the questionnaire, and there's a human being, and for brands out there, those are customers, those are people that interact with you, and we have to be better at understanding that. We all say there's a lifeblood of what we do, but we can adapt and we can evolve in how we address those individuals. So what we're doing to do that is to be champions up and downstream, to understand that data quality means more than just dupes and frauds and how many people did you flag. It's how engaged is a respondent, how are they navigating through the task at hand, and then understanding the nuances of pros and cons, long survey, short survey, questionnaire layout, open ends, all of these things equate to quality. And so we're trying to be champions of nuance.
I think everybody here can relate. Raise your hand if you've ever had a conversation about what to keep and what to take out of the survey.
What to keep usually wins.
Very good.
I build panels for a living. I built my consumer panel back in 1995, so when I'm the one deciding what they get paid, I'm the one that's paying them, I'm the one that's answering emails, I'm the one that's managing the source, so it's my source. So when cheaper and faster came about, it's a shock, because cheaper means we're either taking less margin or paying the panel members less money. And most people have taken the we're paying the panel members less money approach. That's not the approach I took. I decided to cut margins And so how I contributed to the problem was my margins were cut. Margins, all my profits go directly back into my business, and those feed panel recruiting. So my source from about 2012 to 2015 went from 7 million members to less than half of that because we were not able to provide the sample to feed the panel. So solutions, I position myself as a high quality sample provider. You know, I think generally in this room, everybody thinks sample quality went to crap maybe 2019, 2020 when COVID hit. You know, we saw this about 2015. The deletion rates that we were seeing were just skyrocketing. So I had to reposition my company as you're going to pay more for my sample, but you're going to get quality. What I'm backing that up with in my solution is we implemented triple opting in our panel. Most panels are double opt-in. So they sign up on a registration page, they click an email, that's a double opt-in panel, that's how most panels are. So for our panel, we actually triple opt them in. They fill out the form, they double opt in, and they sit there in this pool for about 3 to 5 days. And then at that time, I email them a survey, loaded full of cheater traps, loaded full of open ends, loaded full of red herring questions, and until they pass all that with flying colors, then they're an active panel members. That's one of my points of attack. The other one is having really good technology on the front end and the back end of it all. And then we also created a quality assurance fraud department back in 2015. I have 3 people on that department that read open ends, that read other specifies, that look for discrepancies in the survey data. So that takes that off the researcher's hands of all that time you're spending going through data. We'll do that for you.
Thank you for doing that. Ariane?
Yeah, so as a panel marketplace, you know, unlike Jason, who's spending, you know, company resources, recruiting panelists, and creating and curating that environment where they are high quality and want to come back in and take surveys, as a marketplace, we allow people like Brad to buy from multiple panels in one place. And where that has caused some challenges is kind of, as both of them has mentioned, is kind of that race to the bottom in terms of cost. Because when you have access to multiple different panels in one place, you're kind of comparing one cost to the other and asking, well, how can you be a little bit cheaper? How can you be a little bit cheaper? And as a marketplace, you know, a lot of the marketplace model has kind of facilitated some of that. So what we're doing now is really focusing on the whole ecosystem. And from a quality perspective, it's looking at, you know, Jason's doing quality metrics within his panel, but how do we as a marketplace be able to say, okay, regardless of whether a panelist is coming from Jason's panel or another panel or another kind of source which can actually, you know, provide sort of a help offset any kind of bias of a respondent coming from just one, you know, type of recruitment process. How do we also put in quality layers so that regardless of where they're coming from, Brad can be confident that we validated them, we verified them, and give him visibility into being able to make choices based on price, based on other things. So it's that transparency layer that really kind of supports what Jason is doing, gives Brad some control, and, you know, hopefully makes the process better.
Well, I like this. I like that you guys are working on things that build up to better quality, you know, of the stream. So thank you for that. Our data collection world that we live in had on source transparency, and what are your quality concerns, Jason?
So for me, I think everyone in this room, you kind of have to know how the sausage is made. You don't want to know all the details of it or you're never going to eat sausage again. But you need to understand that most of us in this industry, all the sample providers here at this conference and every conference, we are actually in competition with each other, but we work together. We all have limited sources. I mean, because we're paying people less, because people are less likely to sign up online to take surveys, if I'm not fully feasible, I'm going to reach out to other sample partners. And that's what your current partners are doing now. You could use the biggest 2 or 3 companies in the industry, and I won't name names, and I'm going to do my best not to, but they're using me. I mean, they're using their feasibility that they have, and then they're still working with you as if they're running it, but they're also reaching out to me. They're reaching into the PureSpectrum platform. They're reaching into the St. Lucid platform. They're reaching out to Disco, Protege, all these very reputable, very good companies. So you just need to understand, when you talk to your sample provider, you need to find out who are they using outside of themselves. You should probably ask for, tell me your feasibility proprietary sample, and then tell me what you're using for outside sample.
Okay, proprietary is one of, I will dig my heels in and die on top of this hill. This word gets misused in our industry constantly. And so when you say proprietary, you mean the panel you built.
Proprietary means I own it, I recruit it, I build it, I make every decision with it. What proprietary does not mean is I have a relationship with that company over there. I'm buying their panel members and I'm reselling. That's not proprietary sample. That's someone else's sample.
So when you ask the question, the trade-off here, the takeaway, be open, build trust. What is happening behind the scenes, and this isn't everybody, and I don't think it's intentionally deceitful. There's a demand base to this. Is proprietary can also be defined, or is defined by some members of the data collection space as I'm buying from another panel or traffic source, but I've flagged them from their IP address or some demographic characteristic, so I can actually see if they come back through a process.
Yeah.
That, to me, is not a proprietary asset. To the provider, they may consider it proprietary. So dig a little bit when you ask the questions. That accountability works both ways.
And to wrap up on my part before I pass it on to Ari and Brad, but just understand, blending samples is the best thing you can do. I mean, you're erasing biases. You want to bring in all these different sources, and there's so many great sources out there, but you need to know from your provider what's theirs and what are they using, and that way when you're trying to execute that project and you're down to that last 200 completes and your provider can't get them, you need to reach out to someone else. But how do you know if that provider hasn't already reached out to them?
The one real quick benefit too, is very fast.
This
is not a 25 minute. Why that matters so much to brands, to agencies, to sample buyers is when you understand the source origination, you get to examine and understand fluctuations in the data. It eliminates the noise. So when there are disruptions, they're real market changes, not sample concerns. Everybody has looked at tracker information that is adjusted. When you have control, or at least transparency of what's beneath, you can pinpoint the reason why.
I like that because I think for us, what transparency does for our clients is ultimately, it's about accountability and it's about choice. A lot of times when we talk about these issues that impact our industry, when we actually think about it, like these are things that impact a lot of other industries. When you think about sustainability, do you care, how are the chickens raised, where, with the eggs that you're eating for breakfast, right? Like, do you know what that chicken is, that experience, or like the shoes that you buy, right? Do you know that process of kind of, where are you contributing if you're buying fast fashion?
Or even easy to look the other way.
Right? I got these boots for free from my friend. I actually have no idea, right? Are these fast fashion or not? Am I contributing to the problem by, wanting to buy things cheap or wanting to access things really fast? And so what we're trying to do is really just use that transparency piece to give you choice, right? I know that sometimes we all want to kind of look the other way and just have it be as easy as possible. But then there are times when maybe you do have a priority, and your priority really is, it's understanding the path that the respondent has taken from their living room to the survey, and that's really important to you. Maybe it really is just like, we need this done as cheap and as fast as possible, or maybe it's some kind of mix. Maybe it's a niche target, right? The benefit of the marketplace is that you have that transparency of being able to understand from all the different panels what that looks like. And I think kind of to Jason's point about it is actually good to use multiple panel sources. That does come from he's curating a very specific environment with the respondents that join surveys from his panel. But there are other ways and there are other people who can access surveys, and do you want them all to look alike, or do you want to actually kind of blend people together from different sources but still have the transparency to know who's coming from where, what those CPIs look like, all that good stuff.
Everything that we talked about, how does that end up in the way that it affects inclusivity and accessibility?
Yeah, well, it's kind of a continuation of thought that I just had. I think there's sort of two distinct ways that I can answer this question. The first one, playing off of what I just said, is like where respondents are coming from. One of the challenges I think we faced in our industry is that when we moved from phone to online, a lot of buyers became very obsessed with the panel source specifically. But now one of the challenges we're seeing is like, well, how do I reach the hard to reach quotas? Or how do I access fresh respondents who haven't taken 10 surveys already this month, right? Where are those people? And that's another thing that we can do in the marketplace is that we work with Jason, but we also work with publishing sources where a respondent who is doing something else on the internet, you can still access that respondent to take a survey. But again, because we have a lot of quality metrics and things within our technology, you can still validate who that respondent is. You can still leave and still provide them an open-end question that we'll ask before they get to your survey. So we're doing screening, we're doing that validation, we're making sure that any of the behavior that we have learned over time that is correlated with either fraud or poor quality, we're blocking that on the front end. The reason why so many of you raised your hands earlier is because you're experiencing that on the back end. We've learned, okay, everybody that we've tossed out, what do they look like? What's similar among them? How do we do that on the front end? So it doesn't mean you're never going to toss them out, but kind of to answer your question on inclusion, it's really how do we look at not just one type of source, but opening this up to other sources, which again, more transparency, more accountability, more choice. I'll let you comment on that, and I have one other thing. Brad's dying to comment.
It's exciting. It's the trade-off, right? It's we are a traditional buyer, so which means we've gravitated towards traditional, meaning double opt-in panel. Usually that associates double opt-in panel. That's evolving over time. While the benefit of inclusivity and I'm going to call it online traffic is there, one of the challenges is it's cheaper because it's not a double opt-in process, so people want to use it more. But the big, again, this is a trade-off conversation to take something away, is those individuals are being accessed to a variety of different things. So an individual could be on the train playing a word game that needs an extra life. That individual is not designed to take a 25-minute segmentation. His motivation, her motivation is to get off the train. We know through direct access buying, meaning the respondent's choice, they can say, I want to participate in a 10-minute study, I've earned this many, I do that calculation. African Americans, Hispanics, 18 to 24 and under 25K, after 15 minutes will drop out of a study at a 30% higher rate than an average study. That is a direct invitation approach. That is a direct methodology approach. Layer on traffic, layer on, I'm going to say unpoliced technology, not transparent technology. Those are magnified. So the trade-off there is get the transparency, understand the nuance, and then back to the respondent experience.
Well, so if you want to do a short, quick survey, that might be fine, because the trained guy that you gave an example might be able to do that. But if you're thinking of strategic work that might take a little bit longer, hopefully no more than 20 minutes.
How much can you rely on that?
What do you? You might take that into account if you know where your samples come.
Totally. Yeah, and I mean the good thing is that I'm not forcing Brad to use it.
That's what transparency does. That's exactly what.
But I think the information you have on that also helps you be able to decide, like, is this the right type of survey for the right sources that we have access to based on.
Yes.
Let's give Jason a quick opportunity before we move to the last.
Yeah, I know we're almost out of time, so I'll keep it short here. So my advice to you is cast a wide net. There's providers that specialize in Gen Z, that specialize in Hispanics, that specialize in minorities. Incorporate them into your sample plan. The other thing is, not everything has to be online. Katie, unbelievably great option. You should be using that for B2B research, most definitely. Mail surveys. This can all be fed, it'll grab populations that are not part of the panel, but you can verify these people because you're talking to them on the phone, you're mailing them to their work address or their home address, and all those surveys can be fed directly into your online survey. All the data is in one place, and that's really what we all want, is data in one place, and the data representative and in good condition.
Well, let's stay with you, Jason.
Can I answer that one more time, though? That second piece. Well, it's not really a counterpoint, but it's just, the other aspect of diversity inclusion, and this is the conversation that, Insights Association and some others are talking about, is actually how do you write questions so that respondents feel included in that process, or so that they actually feel like that survey's for them and not, to your point at the very beginning, right? They're a human being, not just for kind of the corporate researcher side of things. So I think it's also, as you're thinking about how you write your surveys, are you asking questions in an inclusive way? Are you asking questions in a way that actually enhance that respondent experience so that they come back and it's easier for Jason to keep them in his panel, and then it's easier for us to give access.
It matters more than you think. I think they quote like 38% of panelists do not have a good engagement experience.
We need to do better.
Yeah.
From your perspective, what is the one question that the audience should ask of companies like yours as they consider their sampling option?
Narrow this down to one thing.
Just one.
Okay.
Fixed data quality.
Fixed data quality. One of those. Honestly, focus on data quality. Talk to your provider about what they're doing on the front end, what kind of digital fingerprint, what kind of fraud software. But as you as corporate researchers that are writing screeners and surveys, y'all are part of this too. You need to write a good screener. You need to write a good survey. I'm not saying write a screener that makes it impossible to qualify, but throw in questions that are going to get rid of people. Throw in a multiple response that if they check too many and they're on there, they're just trying to qualify. So DNQ them if they check more than 4 responses.
Make a note of that one. Brad, next.
We like to talk about data quality with a formula. Sampling techniques times user experience equals data quality. And it's very simple, top level, a lot of nuance in each of these buckets, but data quality equates to what we're all looking for, and that's data confidence. Confidence gives us the ability to act on those insights. It gives us the ability to ignite what's possible with whatever our research allows us to do. So whenever you're doing something, make sure you keep it in focus that there are two parts to the data quality conversation, and the user experience gets forgotten about real quick.
Ariane, close us out, lady.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't really like to follow rules, so I'm not gonna answer it as just one question. I think the three questions that Tanya asked today are the three questions that you should be asking just to make sure that your provider does have an answer, right? For us, it's all about transparency that provides accountability and choice. So I want you guys to have that choice when you're running your surveys. So I think that's why we chose these questions today.